Hi there, listener, and welcome to the first in this winter's series of podcasts covering the best snow sports equipment available for winter 2025. Today, we're going to be looking at the best skis for the new season, and in future episodes, we'll be looking at ski boots, jackets, helmets, goggles, gloves, and socks, and plus, we'll finish off with a special episode focusing on ski touring equipment. Now, before I go on, I'd like to put a big shout out for Ellis Brigham. This special episode of the Ski Podcast has been made possible by them. Ellis Brigham are the winter sports specialists. They have 16 shops around the UK where you can buy all the kit you need for this winter. Alternatively, simply go to their website at ellis-brigham.com and you can buy online there. Now, a note on format, how we're going to do these episodes. What we're going to do is we're going to cover why certain products stand out. We're going to try and keep the jargon to a minimum, and we're going to cover products at the top and the middle and entry levels. And we're going to try and make it as useful as possible to a wide range of listeners, not just people who are like really into the technical side of things. So with all of that, my name's Iain Martin. I'm your host, but I would like to introduce the man who's going to guide us through everything I've just mentioned. Expert guest on the Ski Podcast, our equipment expert, Al Morgan from skikitinfo.com, also writes for Full Line, Telegraph. Very busy time of year for you. Hi, Al. How are you?
Morning, Iain. I am good, thank you. Yeah, it's a little bit manic, but it could be a lot worse. At least I'm writing about skiing, which is pretty exciting. And winter is not that far off. It's racing towards us.
Absolutely. In fact, I think I tweeted about this the other day, but in Val Thorens, it's less than 2 months now until the resort opens for winter. And I was in Crans-Montana last weekend, no, maybe the weekend before, and we had 30 centimeters of snow. So we're starting to get excited about all of these things. And, you know, these episodes that we did last year, I found them so interesting. And I know a lot of people listen to them as well. In fact, the skis was one of our most listened to episodes of last winter. But I wondered if we could start then by covering some of these bits of jargon, as you would have it, that we're going to crop up when we start talking about the skis. So listeners need to kind of know this information, but without going too technical. So let's start off with the different types of skis. We're going to cover several different categories here. So what are we looking at?
God, ski categories. It's always interesting. And that start off, there are no black and white rules around this. There is not a definite separating line between the different categories. There's loads of crossover, depending on the brand, their intent, what their philosophy is around their business, all manner of things. But certainly for the UK market, slightly different North America, use slightly different terms there, but we will be looking at Piste, which is, as the kind of term suggests, for groomed terrain, the piste that runs, and then you get all mountain, freeride, touring, freestyle race. But yeah, the main ones: Piste, all mountain, freeride, touring. We're going to do later on. Yeah, not in this episode. So Piste is your narrow waisted. All mountain is supposed to be a bit of everything. Arguably more focused for groomed terrain, and then freeride crossover into a bit of piste, but really they're the ones that you want on your feet for those powder days when you're going to go just searching for that amazing fresh snow.
Can I just clarify a little bit on all mountain? I mean, there's a lot of mountains. So you're saying this is something that can work for you when you're on piste, but if you're going to be going off piste as well, it's still going to deliver it. It's not a freestyle ski at all, is it?
That specifically the freestyle bit, there have been some skis come into this category that are all mountain skis and really are kind of freestyle. If you think of Black Coast Myros Core, that's probably a really good example. Line Blade, that kind of ski where it has that playful character. Arguably they're a piste ski, but really they're all mountain skis. But all mountain, you're talking from kind of low 70 mils underfoot up to around about 100 mils. So this is the measurement under where you stand on the ski. That measurement's in millimeters.
You kind of actually anticipated my next question there, because you're talking about like underfoot, and I think a lot of people are kind of mindful now of how much difference that makes. How important is that figure for width under your foot to give you an indication of what that ski is going to do?
Oh, see, I'm really glad that you used that word indication. And that's exactly what that does. It gives us an indicator of what the ski is for. So if you think of a race ski, That's around 65 millimeters underfoot. That's quite thin, but that gives you loads of power, very quick edge to edge and grippy. Piste skis. So really, we're talking 65. Typically, it's upper 60s up until kind of mid 70s, because there's quite a lot of wider bodied piste skis now, which are your 75 to 85 underfoot. All mountain, then that's typically from upper 70s all the way up to 100 millimeters or more underfoot. So again, that's that waist width of the ski, which is also a term that gets used. And then Freeride classically goes from around mid 80s up until 120 and bigger. So you can see this huge crossover, and it depends on the brand. If you look at Fischer, for example, they do not have an all mountain category. They have Piste, which goes up to 85, and they have Freeride, which starts at 84 underfoot. So as I said, there's no hard and fast rules around these. This is all about an indication of what that ski is going to best suit in terms of where you are on the mountain, the kind of skiing.
So actually, that's going to fit in really well with my next question, because it's almost how wide it is underfoot doesn't really mean anything unless you look at it in context of the side cut, and that's something that we mention, quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that? What is side cut telling us?
Okay, so what's an easy way to think of this? So get a straight plank of wood, and then you draw a curve on the side of it, yeah? So it's wider at the front, wider at the back, and narrow in the middle, and cut that out. So that cut in the side, that side cut, is the shape of the side of the ski. So if you look at the ski from the tip along the base, you'll see that it's like a kind of drawn out hourglass shape. So it's narrower in the middle, it's wider in the front, what we call the tip, and it's wider at the very back, right behind your, as far back as you can go in the ski, called the tail. The tip is normally the widest, the tail is normally next widest, and then in the middle. And that gives us, when we lay a ski on its edge, its turn. So side cut is those, tip, waist, and tail. And then we have radius, which is that turn shape. So you tilt something with a curve on its side, like that, that convex kind of shape, concave kind of shape, sorry. And then it'll prescribe an arc in the snow. And that's kind of what we talk about when we're talking about radius, but that's a huge topic. So yeah, I mean, we can talk a bit more about radius and the lengths of those and what they mean, but side cut is that cut down the side of the ski that gives us that curved shape.
Okay, and you mentioned there the front of the ski is more typically known as a shovel, and the tail.
Yeah.
Another term that crops up quite a lot is rocker. Is it easy to explain, or can you explain what a rocker is?
Most people probably know what a rocking horse or a rocking chair is. So where that has a big curved wooden rail on the bottom on each side, really, and that is fully rocketed. Okay, so it can rock. So a rocker is a form of that. It came around at the start of the century, which I appreciate, makes me sound really old. It came over from water skis, and it was designed originally for powder skiing. So you place any ski on a flat, hard surface. Most of them will have a gap under the binding. That is what we refer to as camber. And then it will touch the hard surface towards the shovel and towards the tail. However, the distance between the extremity of the ski and where that contact point is can be thought of as the rocker. So all skis have a shovel, that really sharp, up sweep at the front. That's not what we're talking about. They have to have that, otherwise the skis will just plow into any piles of snow. And they generally have a slight release in the back. But if we lie the skis on the floor, if that contact point is markedly back, let's say 10 centimeters back from the shovel, that will let us know that that's how long that rocker is. And it can be more pronounced, could come up a lot or just a little bit. It was designed for powder skiing, but you get any ski tilted on its side and put pressure through it, i.e. when you are making a turn, and that's full ski will be bent. Look at videos of races. Those skis get really bent, so they are fully rocketed during a turn. So if we put a little bit of rocker in the shovel, that helps start that shape. So actually on piste skis, then it can be a massive benefit. If you look at K2 doesn't really make a ski without rocker and hasn't for some time. Volcal on some of their really intense piste skis have rocker at the front and back. So it's not just about powder skiing.
Okay, and I like the insight as well that something that's 20 years old, It's like it kind of ages us because that's how long they've been around.
Mhm.
Okay, here's a big question then. We've talked about the dimensions of the ski, but we haven't actually touched on the length of ski. And anyone who's ever rented skis and been along to that ski shop, and maybe the guys working there ask you how long you want your skis, or they just measure them up to you and you just get handed to them. If you're buying, I think it's a really, really important question. And I don't know if there is a single answer to this, but how long should your skis be?
You can go two ways with this. You can talk about it for hours and you can obsess about it, and many of us do, or you take a kind of rough measurement. So lots of retailers and things will say kind of start at your eye level or mid face, or if you want tighter turning or you're going to be on piste, you can go a bit shorter by your chin. If you are going to be skiing powder, you go longer. Now that's true to a certain extent, but a ski cannot see how tall you are. It can only feel the pressure that's put through it. So that's energy, mass, your skiing ability, many things like that, and speed. So a longer ski will give you more edge in contact with the snow. So if you're heavier, that'll give you more grip, and a longer ski will give you more flotation and powder. So if you're heavier, a longer ski will float you up. But conversely, if you are a light ski or you don't ski with lots of energy, a long ski is going to be far more difficult to use, and you don't need the benefits of that extra edge or that extra flotation. And also, when you're going to ski off piste and powder, when you want that flotation, you'll generally be on a wider ski, so you naturally have a greater surface area. So a way to think about it is around your head length. That middle of the head is a good starting point. If you want something that's going to be super turny, look at tight radius. So something which has a radius figure, which I mentioned before, of around 13, 14, 15, which is kind of your piste category figure. You ski a shorter ski. Bear in mind that the best skiers in the world, when they're skiing slalom, may be on a 160 or a 165 ski. And some of these guys and girls can be really powerful, really strong, really heavy. So don't be nervous about going short. And on the flip side, probably to confuse things slightly, there are skis well over 180 centimeters, which are really easy to use now. So don't worry about actually, I can go with a longer ski in powder, and especially with that rocker that we spoke of. And there's one other element which I didn't mention. So in the front of the ski, the widest part may be really, really far forward, but actually it may be 10 or 15 centimeters back from the very tip of it. So we call that taper, where it tapers out to the shovel from a wider point. So that means that the ski behaves like a shorter ski. The engagement point is further back, but you get more flotation. So think about it as weight, speed, and turn shape, and the kind of skiing you'll want, rather than your height. But this is why you go to a good retailer, because they can help you. Because a 180 in one ski will be different to a 180 in another ski in terms of length, and it'll ski differently depending on construction. So it's the retailer, it's the staff that go out and test those products, that get training from all the brands, go into the stores and train the staff. The staff goes to different kind of forums and things to learn so much about this product to get you on the right ski.
Excellent. Well, maybe another episode, listener, you can tell us if you'd like to hear a several hours long discussion about the length of the ski, but we won't do that in this one.
Don't obsess about it. That's the main thing.
What I would like to do, though, is ask you another question. I mean, in all of the episodes last year, in all of those equipment specials, sustainability was a really key feature, something that we were seeing quite a lot in through almost every brand. Is that still a big part of the brand's focus? Are we seeing that in the new range of skis for this winter?
Yeah, more than ever before. And sometimes it's just a little thing, Salomon last year with the Attic Pro, it's brilliant, had this really lurid multicolored sidewall because they were using recycled material in the sidewall of the ski. So that's really obvious, you can see that. But there's a lot of what's happening inside the skis that you can't tell what's going on. So Dynastar have a hybrid core where the grains of the wood, not to get too techy, but the grains of the wood, they can lay the laminates, because the ski's made up of loads of little strips of wood glued together. So they can run the laminates in different directions. And their newer version, the Hybrid Core 2.0, has it running along the length of the ski, sideways and vertically, the grains of the wood. And it means that they can reduce the amount of resin and fiberglass matting that they use in the ski, So you're removing all of those less sustainable products, you know, those ones that we want to not use, those kind of petrochemical based things. But the skis give better performance. And this is what I love about what's happening in the sustainability part of ski construction at the minute. The skis are becoming less harmful is probably the right word, you know, but certainly they're using more sustainable construction techniques, which is giving better performance. And it means that people hopefully can use their skis for longer, because the longer that we use them, the less products that we're using. And that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really valid point you make. And in fact, I invited you to join me on a panel that I arranged at Ski Launch, an event
Yeah.
for the industry earlier this month. It seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah, doesn't it?
And there's a really interesting innovation there, a company called ADN Skis. I don't know if you've come across that before, but the way I understood it, they're not a brand. They're not going to be selling their own skis. What they're looking to do is try and become, let's say, the Gore-Tex to ski companies, where they're creating a ski that can be recycled much more efficiently than existing skis. Did you get a chance to find out about that or talk to
That
the
is
founder?
so interesting. And just the big challenge with skis and recycling, and we've seen, you know, the Nordica Technica group, they've been working in this space, trying to develop ways of making it easier for consumers to get skis recycled. Same with Rossignol with their Essential Ski project. But this was unbelievable, because one of the challenges in recycling skis is separating the materials. We build them because they have to withstand massive range of temperatures, get skied really hard in a really harsh environment, and not break apart. But then we want them to be easy to recycle at the end. And the challenge is we've built them so they don't fall apart. So then separating the materials, which is what we need to do for recycling, is very, very difficult and expensive. This technology allows the ski to give us that performance in the mountains, but at end of life, to separate the materials is unbelievably easy. And I know that there are some main manufacturers, and I'm talking some of the biggest manufacturers in the world, trying this technology at the minute. They're using some demos this season where they're going to see how it performs in the mountains, because this is the first test, and then we'll see if it gets integrated. But I just want to temper it slightly. I've seen various companies bring technologies to skis, take it to the brands, and it hasn't been adopted, not for sustainability, but for other things in skiing. And sometimes it does get adopted, sometimes it doesn't. But this is exceptionally exciting, and they've done a lot of testing around it. So it's just really positive. The future's looking brighter for ski construction, and that's no bad. Sometimes these are stepping stones, and they're very aware that it could be a stepping stone tech, but we are getting there, and that is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'll try. I will endeavour to get someone from that company onto one of the main episodes of the podcast in due course. Okay, I've got one more question for you before we move on to your selection of skis. Then I think it might be useful for our listeners to understand how you know so much about these skis already, given that they're only about to go on sale now. When and where have you tested them?
So there's an organisation in the UK called the SIGB, the Snow Sport Industries of Great Britain. And that organisation, they run a trade show in January, at the start of January. And so all the ski brands attend, and myself, media and retailers attend, looking at what they're going to range for the subsequent season. But they also run a test. So it's towards the end of January. Last season, it was in Clusaz in France, a resort made famous because of Candide. But it's a great testing ground. So I was out there for 5 days testing product. I was actually out there for a few days before, testing some other stuff. And I go to Scotland a bit through the season, even though I live down south. So I make the migration. I drive up to Scotland. I go to a place called Glenmore Lodge, which is Scotland's National Outdoor Training Centre. It's a fantastic base, and it's brilliant for testing touring product. And believe me, if kit can withstand the weather and the conditions and the granite of the Cairngorm National Park, you know it is good. So that is brilliant. But any time that I am outside, and especially when I'm in the mountains, and whenever I am skiing, I am testing kit, and not just on my own. With Foreline, I have a whole team of testers, so I get loads of input, and I talk with all the other testers in the UK. We talk to each other about product. So it's a massive process, but it allows us to get a really good indication of who the product's going to best suit. Because at the end of the day, what I do is to try and help people have a better time in the mountains. That's the only reason. And hopefully we can achieve a bit of that today.
I think we certainly will, and I've got a back up what you're saying about Scotland. Regular listeners will know about my trip up there in February earlier this year, where I encountered all conditions, including like driving rain and hail and snow. And so, yes, a great place to test your equipment.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to the meat of the issue then. Let's find out what's on the list of your best skis for winter 24-25. What's first up?
Yeah, so God, this could be a long list. I've narrowed it down to, as you said, to kind of give a spread across ability levels and across the kind of skiing and terrain that you want to go on. So we'll focus on piste first. This is where a lot of people spend most of their time. And I love piste skiing. The energy and excitement is brilliant. And even at the lower end in terms of product, it's unbelievable how the current crop of skis gives you that enthusiasm when you're on groomed terrain. So the first is a ladies ski. It's from an Austrian brand, Atomic. So it's Atomic Cloud C9. They have Cloud is their women's piste line. They have a C, which is your narrower range, and Q, which is, as I mentioned earlier, that wider bodied piste ski range. But the C9 has been such a big seller globally for seasons, but they made a change not that long ago to put some wood in the core of the ski. And so it does have some synthetic material in there that they call Densolite. So that keeps it light, keeps the cost down, gives dampening. They use something called Riva Shock lights. So Riva Shock comes from their race skis. You know, if you look at Michaela Schifrin's skis, and you'll see these metal plates on the top of her skis, especially on some of the speed disciplines. So that gives dampening. So they've got a light version of that. So again, that's just to give you a bit of stability, a bit of dampening in the ski without being too punishing. The Cloud C9's about £500, comes with the binding. You can get it from a 143 up to like a 164 centimeter length. But for an intermediate skier, this is a beautiful ski. And even when I put expert female skiers, ex-racers on this, they still have a total blast.
Okay, that's really interesting. Several points come to mind in relation to that. I guess one is I interviewed Bode Miller around this time last year, and with his range of skis, peak skis, he doesn't have men's and women's skis. And one of the things he said is like the ski can't tell, you know, who's skiing it, who's on top of it. But I guess the other question is, did you ski these yourselves, or have you based that on feedback from your testers?
I have skied the C9. Some of my favorite skis of all time are, I'm holding my fingers up to do the inverted commas, women's skis. So there are differences. Ladies' center of mass tends to be lower down and further back. So that could just be a change of ramp angle on the binding. You could make the tails of the skis have a different flex to the men's. Often the construction may be lighter because females tend to be lower mass. So if you're going to put a lady on a 164 ski and a man on a 164 ski, you may want more material in the ski on the man's than the woman's. But yes, certainly for freeride skis and race skis, there generally isn't that much of a difference. The lady skis will just be labeled as women's, but they're no different. So yeah.
Okay, that's great. So number one, Atomic Cloud C9, coming in around £500, including binding. So we're kind of saying that is an entry level type of ski, right?
Yeah, so skis will range from around £350 with the binding. But if you want something that's going to give you some performance, so it's going to help you on your journey through skiing, going to get you into carving and then carry you on as you get better. Once you start to talk £450, £500, and there's quite a few skis in this area, then you are getting a lot of ski for your money.
Okay, great. So any other piste skis on your list?
Yeah, so I touched on it before with the recycled sidewall story. So it was a Salomon Addict Pro last year. It won loads of awards. It's mid-60s underfoot, 66 millimeters off the top of my head. Brilliant skier. Absolutely love it. And they had a standard Addict. Now, that wasn't full cam. I had a bit of rocket. Didn't have the energy of the Addict Pro, but they brought out basically the same width as what they had as the Addict, but with a construction story and the energy of the Addict Pro, and it's called the Addict Pro 76. It's not exactly the same as the Addict. Obviously, it's 10 millimeters wider underfoot. Does have a little bit of rise through the front, that rocker, but you can still go edge to edge really, really fast. It's not as pure slalom as the Addict Pro. So actually, I think certainly for the UK market, but general skiers, holiday skiers in particular, who maybe don't want something that reactive and they want to be able to go off the sides if the conditions lend themselves to it, the Addict Pro 76 is sensational. Same price as the regular Addict Pro. It's £780 with a binding. You can get it in a 156 to mid 170s, 177 centimeters. Yeah. But, you know, this is more expensive than that Cloud C9, but it is more about performance. It is accessible, upper intermediates, advanced intermediates, onwards, go for it.
So you picked, I reminded myself what skis we went for last year, and you picked the Salomon Elite Pro last year. So you're obviously a big fan of the ski, but what you're saying is this one is slightly wider underfoot, gives you a few more options when you're skiing with it. Is that right?
Yeah, Salomon's been a bit hit and miss in recent years in terms of their skis. When they brought their stances out, loved those, brilliant. And the S-Max Blast, I love. But Salomon historically had loads of energy around their skis. They were so exciting as a brand. Think of 1080s and pocket rockets and, you know, these kind of things. And they've totally got their mojo back. It is so exciting, not just in skis, that their boots are getting there, and some of the things that I see coming down the pipeline for future seasons. It is so exciting. But this Addict Pro, I was nervous it wasn't going to deliver what they did last season, especially when the Addict standout I thought was a bit dull. This was a joy.
Okay, excellent. So those are a couple of Piste skis. Let's go. And although you said that you could take that Addict Pro 76, you know, off the piste,
yeah, it's definitely a Piste ski.
Let's go broader, all mountain. We discussed what that means earlier.
Yeah.
What's on your list there?
So this all mountain. People use the term one ski quiver, and really, let's face it, you really want to have 3 or 4. That's the great stuff. But if you've got one ski, most people focus on all mountain. So these are 2 new skis for this season. First is by Blizzard. So it's called the Anomaly 88. So people may know things like the Brahma and Coaches of old. So they've gone. So the Anomaly 88. And they do much wider skis as well. They do a slightly narrower 84. I think I haven't actually skied that, but the 88 and wider I've skied. These are punchy skis. They use something called True Blend wood core. They use different woods in the ski to give the flex that they want. You get a layer of metal under the core, and then above the core, they've got a layer of metal running above the wood core, and then separate layers of metal over the edge. And what is just... God, so exciting talking about them. They're honestly, they're absolutely brilliant. They're weighty, punchy, they're classic Blizzard feel. It's got that real accuracy, but they're accessible like the old Brahmas were really accessible and usable. These are, and then when you turn up the throttle, oh my, they're amazing. And on piste, they grip and perform like some amazing piste skis. You can take them off the side, you can take them in bumps. The range that they can be used in is really, really broad. However, I would say, arguably, you know, if you're really light skier or really timid, maybe not the ski for you, but they are absolutely incredible. The price wise, it's £660, mid 160, 164 through to 188 in length. Yeah, it's amazing. Way more accessible than I thought it was going to be. And then, as I say, if you knock that volume dial to 11, you're just going to light up.
Excellent. Sorry, and you said 660. Does that one include binding?
No, yeah. So this is flat mount. This means they do not have a binding. So you have to factor in the price of the binding on that. But you're talking, depending on the binding, £150, £200 typically. Unless you're going to go for a Freeride touring binding, then you're talking £400-500.
Okay. And do you have any others in that all mountain category then? Yeah.
So Nordica, the Enforcer and Santa Ana names have been in their ranges for seasons. I think the Enforcer's around 10 years old. But they're completely new this season. They've changed the profile, they've changed the construction, they've changed the rocker profile through the ski as well. So not just the shaping through the sides. And the classic is the Enforcer 100, you know, really stiff, punchy. So they have a 99, which is still like that. It's still very punchy. But they do a 94 and a 104, actually. They do narrow as well. But this 94 as a slightly wider, all mountain, lending itself into free ride. So the Anomaly 88, bit more piste. This is a bit more free ride, and it's absolutely sensational. And 94, I think, is more fun, more accessible to more people than a 99, but so usable off piste. Brilliant in the bumps, brilliant in variable terrain. I first tested this in Italy last December, and it was rock solid. And the 94 gave on some really steep terrain at really high speed, really hard packed, and it's still gripped.
Okay, that's really interesting. And you're talking about the width there, 94. You know, when you started off and you were describing widths of different categories of skis, they're obviously quite big sections. You said all mountains 70 to 100, and maybe you're saying there's even 104 in the Enforcer if you wanted to go.
I mean, that is
far.
certainly more free ride. You can use it on piste, but I would put that in the free ride category because it is wide.
Right. Okay. And then you said, free ride skis, okay, 80 to 120. So these type of skis here, we talk about, mid 90s and upwards, they're crossing over. This is why they're all mountain skis, but you're saying to us when you skied it on that hard base in Italy, you're still getting that performance overall. You're still getting that, the turnability out of it.
Yes, exactly. And it's that variety and turn shape that you get. This is a sublimely smooth ski. So wood core, layer metal underneath, layer metal on top, and then they have a rubber plate that they call pulse core that goes under the in between, underfoot, under the metal. It's just so smooth. And then Clusaz, some of the days in Clusaz, it was horribly hard. The days that most people don't want to ski on, and it still performed.
That you must be gutted when you end up at the ski test, for example, and you talk about days when no one actually wants to go out skiing.
But
and you've got to go out and ski again and again and again.
Yeah, but I'm not. So one day we went out testing touring skis, and it was the hardest day of the week. But that was the only day we could test some of the products. But if it performs on that, you know it's going to do when the snow softens, and then you go and find soft stuff. I'm not out there for a holiday. I'm out there to do a job, and that's test products. So actually, difficult skiing conditions are some of the best for testing.
Oh, that is great, Alan. We appreciate it. Right, let's move on to that free ride category then. We've got one left out of your 5 picks for this year. So what is that one?
Well, I put one ski in, but actually there's 2 skis because they're brother and sister, men's and women's versions, and they're new for this year. They're not that different in width to that Enforcer. So the Volcal Secret 96 name gives you a clue to the width. And the men's Mantra. So last year's the M6, it's the M7 this year. And Mantra's been around for a while. Secret's been around for a while. These are the best versions of those skis to date. So they've tweaked in the shovel of the ski. They have this, they embroider some carbon strands, if you want, some carbon toe, some carbon strips into a backer material, laminate that in the shovel. They've tweaked that construction slightly. They've brought in something called 4 radius side cut. So in a ski, when we're talking about that turn shape, that radius, we often refer to the turn in the middle of the ski. Some skis will give 1 measurement. Some skis will give 3. It might be longer at the front and back and now in the middle. It may be the opposite way around, wider, a longer turn shape in the middle and narrow at the tip and tail, depending on what they want to do. This has 4. So it's slightly tighter turn shape as literally the first 10 centimeters. Then it's a long turn shape. Then it's a tight turn shape. Then it's long. So it sounds confusing, like you're going to get into a ski. It's going to jump all over the place. It's not like that. Don't worry about these multi-radius side cut. What it does, it gives you a massive adaptability during the turn. Let's say you're on piste, you're doing a turn, you see a little cookie, little ice cookie or a little shark, little rock sticking up. You want to dodge it, you can change your turn shape. Maybe you just want to change your turn shape. So it does it, but it also means that you can do short longs with greater ease. It lends itself to off-piste. These skis are so accessible now. Sometimes in the past, the Mantras and Secrets have been a bit top end. So accessible, but then when you want to go really, really hard on or off piste, they still deliver. So smooth, have a brilliant flex through them. So yeah, the Secret 96, it's £750 without binding. So when we talk about that more expensive Salomon Addict Pro 76 at £780, this is £750 without a binding. Same price for the man's M7. So you do have to factor that in. It sounds punchy, but oh my, what a ski. Both of them, the women's Secret and the men's M7.
Right. So sorry, men's M7 is that Mantra? Is that what
Yeah,
the
M7
M7?
Mantra. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so there the equivalents. You're saying that the Secret is typically a woman's ski. Mantra is the
So
men's
they
ski.
have
Is that
a,
right?
yeah, exactly. The Secret is what they call the woman's ski, and the Mantra is their unisex or men's ski. Don't
And
obsess
they
about.
come in different widths underfoot. You said
So, so
96
they're
for the Secret.
basically the same platform, different lengths. Yeah. And what's lovely with these skis, depending on the length of the ski. So I talk about this tip, this tailored carbon tip that they have. They also have a tailored Titanal frame. So the metal sheets on top of the ski, they have different widths in the metal as it moves along the ski, and they can change the relative wide length of the wider part of the metal to the thin part. So each length of the ski will have a very similar flex pattern. Whereas historically, if you put the same amount of metal in a short ski, same thickness, everything, it would be stiffer to flex than a long ski with the same metal in it. So they've done this tailored Titanal frame. So it means as you go in those short lengths, you still get that accessibility, but you still get that top end performance without them being too much to handle.
I was going to say all skiers dream of those massive powder days, but now that I think about it, my wife doesn't dream about those particular days. But for me, yeah, going out in deep powder and being able to take one of those big fat skis with me, would be ideal. If you can combine the skis with the right conditions, then to me, that's kind of perfection. And I'd love to see if I can try that vocal mantra or something this winter as well.
And
And
one
just
thing,
a,
oh, sorry, one thing that's brilliant with these modern skis, this Secret 96, off-piste in powder, sensational, but that variable snow that people find really challenging. So you talk about, your wife not so much on those powder days, but getting on a ski like this means that people who are maybe nervous or struggling in those conditions, this will really help. And then when you want to ski around the piste with your friends and family, it still does it with amazing ease and performance.
Okay, well, I'll tell her that and see if we can tempt her into the back country as well. Okay, so that's really interesting. Now, I mentioned before the episode is sponsored by Ellis Brigham. And all of these skis are available at Ellis Brigham. Just as a reminder, they've got 16 shops around the UK. Now, I actually asked them for their contribution, and we got Alex from the Milton Keynes store, and he sent in his choice for the best ski of the year. Now, Al, you've already heard this. I'm going to drop it in now so our listeners can hear it. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll try and drop it in as well. But it is, spoiler, the Rossignol Arcade 84. Now, Al, I wondered what you thought about that choice.
Oh, man. I love this ski. Again, it's a bit spendy, £700 of the binding, but it goes really short, 152 all the way up to 184. It's really light and nimble on your foot. The performance from it, you can ski it almost like a slalom ski on piste. It's got quite a wide shovel. It's mid 130s, 132 through the shovel. So it's got good lift through there as well. So off the sides, like Alex says, this ski has that one ski quiver to do a bit of everything on and off piste. So in All Mountain, we spoke of the Anomaly 88 and the Enforcer 94. So they're a bit wider. This is more your piste focused side, and it does a bit of everything. And on piste, it is better than some of the piste skis we were testing. This is a completely new line from Rossignol Arcade, and it is beautiful.
And just to clarify, we're talking about an all mountain ski here,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Well, that's another one. I will include links to all of these skis and their details in the show notes. It's really, really interesting, Al. And, as I say, every year I find these conversations incredibly educational for me. So I'm hoping that, our listeners feel the same. We do get a lot of feedback about the different episodes. And, listener, if you're listening now, please do tell us what you think about this. The easiest way to contact me is by email, theskipodcast@gmail.com, or by social at the Ski Podcast. And actually, since our last episode, I have had a couple of comments from listeners This one's actually quite relevant because David Fowler said, I enjoyed listening to episode 219, which is where I interviewed Mark Brigham from Ellis Brigham about the history of the company.
Yeah.
And that is fascinating if you want to get a deeper insight into Ellis Brigham. Wayne Hall also sent me a message saying, I've been a long time listening to the Ski Podcast, been tuning in since before the pandemic. So that is always good to hear from long-time listeners. He says, I religiously listen to the pod, especially as I gear up for a ski trip. And I really appreciate how you cover all the latest in ski gear, travel and sustainability. So Wayne, hopefully you'll find this one interesting as well. Now, there are now 227 episodes of the Ski Podcast to catch up with. I looked earlier today and 122 of those have been listened to in the last week. You can do that too. There's so much to listen to in our back catalogue. Just go to theskipodcast.com, search around the tags and categories, and you're bound to find something in there of interest as you get excited for the new season to come. I also saw in the last week that 60% of our listeners were in the UK. 13% in the States, and everyone else is spread all across the world as far and wide as South Korea, Egypt, and Jamaica. So, listener, if you're listening now and you like the podcast, there are a couple of things you can do. You can review us on Apple Podcasts or give us a message on Spotify. I've only discovered this recently. You can make a comment on Spotify. All of these things, I like the contact. It helps other people find us. And, if you're listening right now and you want to know what Al is going to say in our next equipment episodes, then just make sure you click to subscribe or follow, and then you won't miss an episode. Follow me at Skipedia and the podcast at the Ski Podcast. Al, I'd like to thank you for all of your time today. We will be back in 2 weeks' time on the 11th of October with our look at the best ski boots for winter 2025. In the meantime, you can look out for a special interview coming up next Friday, the 4th of October, with Vicky Gosling, CEO of GB Snow Sports. I interviewed Vicky this summer, and I think you will find it a really interesting listen as we look at the incredible talent in the team leading up to the next Winter Olympics, set against the challenges they face with funding. So thanks so much, Al, for sharing your time today. I look forward to having a chat about ski boots in a fortnight's time.
Iain, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
No problem. And finally, listener, thank you for joining us wherever in the world you're listening right now. And until next time, goodbye.